Our Pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are ba-dum-bum in the year of the Dresden.
And we are
completing the plot of Proven Guilty, a book that would not end.
This book, here's the thing. It was a little bit depressing that this followed such a great book.
I mean, it was very depressing because I feel like we loved the last book so much. We thought like the tides were turning, and then all of a sudden they turned back.
Hopes that I was like, oh, you know what? This is the point, and all of them are going to be pretty good from here on out. Backslide.
And then they really said, what if we give Charity a lot of character development, but also no character development at all?
She still sucks.
Yeah, like what if we took the one woman who disliked Harry and made it her fault? Like, and she really
and the thing
is the hysterical woman through it all.
The problem is, too, that Butcher has done an effective job of making me also dislike Charity.
Yeah.
I cannot get on board with this character, even though I'm trying hard to.
She just...
Because I'm very sympathetic of her situation.
Yes.
But I really cannot with this woman.
She's just the most, like, stereotypical mom character.
Yes.
I'm sorry, we simply can't get into this right now.
We simply can't get into this right now. This is the whole point of the podcast. We simply can't get into this.
We're spoiling it. We have to do the first part of the podcast.
Damn it, format.
Laura, what are you reading, watching, and actually enjoying?
So I've read a handful of books recently. I'm only going to talk about a couple of them. But the first one I want to talk about is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Excellent book.
Excellent book.
Excellent
so
book.
Good.
I posted on Blue Sky and I even tagged Stephen Graham Jones. I was like, we are not talking about his works enough because he is excellent. There are so many themes throughout The Only Good Indians. So this is a story that focuses on this group of friends who were on like a hunting trip, and things really go south quickly on this hunting trip. And then years later down the road, this group of friends is haunted by this mysterious figure, and they believe that it is tied to the hunting incident that they had years prior. And this is, even the title of this book, I think, is extremely like harrowing and well done and clever and ties so well into the story itself. But this is a really great way to, I think, kind of work in themes of like this eco horror where we have kind of the world coming back and having a vengeance for the way that it is treated, and the world's creatures being vengeful for the way that they've been treated. I really appreciated just like the way that generational trauma was depicted, and honestly just like life on the reservation is depicted
life on
really
the reservation
well.
is so, not to be like white girl Americans about this, but like it is,
but also we are white women,
yes,
consuming this work.
It's very good to read about modern day reservations because I feel like growing up we had a lot more like historical, quote unquote, this is what it's like, and it's like, oh, it's weirdly I don't know, it's just weirdly fetishization of Native Indian like culture. And I do think like seeing it in this modern day and in this type of storytelling is fascinating, and like Stephen Graham Jones does such an amazing job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he also does a great job of working in just the like I think you just kind of said this, the modern culture of the Indian people, and how Native Indian people, and how like basketball is a huge part of their lives, and it's a huge part of the people that live on reservations, like basketball. And this is actually something that I've picked up on in other authors' works too, is how basketball is so like is such a deep part of the people that live in reservations. Like it's fundamental, like you said. And yeah, I thought that working that in was excellent. I really like, I really just enjoyed the way that friendships were depicted, the way that the different relationships between like family members were depicted. And I even liked how we saw a like relationship between a white woman and a native Indian man depicted and
Yeah.
how there were a lot of complications with that
Hmm.
versus marrying someone of your own, being in a relationship with someone who's the same race as you. Like
Hmm.
I thought there was so much in this book that was just truly excellent, and I would highly recommend this book to people. I think it was absolutely great. I'm probably going to write a bigger review and put it up on the blog and also on FanFi Addict. So
Beautiful.
look out there. But I just really, really enjoyed this book. And I saw some people online that were saying, like, I thought this was a thriller and it was really gruesome. And I saw that for a couple of other books of Stephen Graham Jones's that people were claiming that the books were too gruesome, that they thought they were thrillers. I think they might have gotten these like genres mixed up a little bit because these to
Yes.
me are definitely horror,
He
like
writes
final
horror
girl type
novels.
situations.
Yeah.
So less thriller. I mean, I guess you can consider most horror genre to be pretty like kind of jump scare thrilling, but these
His is
are,
specifically horror novels, though. They're
yeah,
not hiding in thriller clothing.
yeah, I don't know where people got the message that these were thrillers, but definitely like the I've read 3 books of his now and I'm like definitely horror. I think people are missing the
I
mark here if
think
they're
I
thinking
think
these are
people need to
thrillers.
get a new answering machine because
Yeah, these are horrors to me, but really, really excellent work. And I'm kind of like hyper fixating on Graham's work now at the moment, Stephen Graham work, Jones's work now at the moment. So
man,
deep diving into a lot of stuff and really enjoying it. So I'll talk about more of Jones's work coming up, but just wanted to shout out The Only Good Indians and what a great book this is. Just
welcome to the club,
kudos.
Laura. Because
Yeah,
I
you got
fucking love
me.
him.
You
I've
got me on the
read
train.
so many. I've read at least I want to say 5 or 6 of his books. So
Hmm.
huge fan. I can't say enough good things. Stephen Graham Jones, come on the pod.
Stephen Graham Jones, please come on the pod.
We want to
We'd
talk
love
to
to
you
have you.
so badly. You're one of
This
my
is how we
faves.
get people on the
So
podcast. We read their books and gush over them, and then we just like talk about them all the time and beg them to come on.
yeah,
So this is
just
our attempt.
please come on.
The other thing I read, Hannah, did not enjoy. Uh, I don't know why this was like a heavily recommended manga, but Dandadan Volume 1
I
by
recognize that name.
Yukinobu Tatsu. A lot of people really like this series. I'm stopping after Volume 1. I'm unwilling to continue to give this book a try, like this series a try,
Oh,
because in the first volume, sexual assault and um, the potential of it are used as a joke. And I'm not cool with that.
no.
And it's of minors. And I
Mm.
feel very uncomfortable with that. And I just, it was a weird story too. Like people were saying, like, is this what drugs feels like to read this book? Like it was really like a lot going on because we have like supernatural elements as well as aliens kind of mixing together and kind of this like occult club type situation. These teenagers trying to decide what's real and what's not, arguing whether aliens exist or whether, uh, like supernatural ghosts and things like that exist. And then when they encounter these things, immediately things go haywire and
Okay.
there is the threat of sexual assault of these 2 minors and it's laughed upon
Ugh.
and I just don't
I
like
think it's
it.
okay to have boundaries and say like that's not a joke I find funny and I don't
Yeah,
want to
and
participate in it.
I've seen other people say like, "Oh, the series gets better." You know what? I'm willing to just like there's other stuff I can read. I'm just
Hmm.
not gonna waste my time with this when this is the start. Like it's kind of bad. I
Yeah.
just don't like it. And it didn't rate it well. So even though it has really high ratings on all of these book apps, not from me. Whoops. So yeah, I'll be pursuing other manga series
That's okay.
and not that one. So, but another manga that I did read the first volume of, I thought was actually a really cute first novel was, our first volume was One Punch Man by One. And The author is just one, that's the pseudonym.
Oh, good.
And I love the mystery of it. But One Punch Man is about this person who works extremely hard to become a superhero, so hard that he stresses himself out to the point of being bald. And he's just like this average bald man who is very young, but has the ability to fight off all villains and kill them with just, or not always kill, but just like destroy them with one punch. And
Okay.
he has this sense of just like a lack of fulfillment in his life because he has no true matches. And I
Mm,
thought like the concept of this, like I really see the potential in this series after reading the first volume where I'm like, this is gonna get deep. And I know
yeah.
like it's very much a story where there's like a lot of humor dispersed through here, but I have a feeling that I'm really going to dig this one because I love it when manga kind of just like gets deep and tries to like make you feel all existential. And I know
Yeah.
this one's going to do it. So I do recommend One Punch Man, Volume 1 at least, because I enjoyed that one.
Good.
So,
Okay. Glad to hear it.
and then I've just been watching Taskmaster. So I'm into season 5 now. I finished
You,
season 4
you made me
and
start rewatching. So
yes, that's what you said. So, yeah, season 4, um, Noel won, and I like Noel quite a bit. I did think he was a little bit hard on Hugh, which there were other people in like the comments on YouTube that were complaining about like how Hugh was the best and all this. I don't think that's true. I don't think that Hugh was the best all the time,
no.
but I do think that Greg was quite hard on Hugh. And I often would have thought that like Hugh should have done a little bit better, but I get it. He's like a huge star. Like he can handle it. So it's fine.
And I do
But
think that sometimes like Greg l likes the like I don't know, he likes the people who are a little bit more jovial sometimes. Like Noel is someone who is
here's the
like,
thing. I've watched a couple of interviews now with Greg and listened to a podcast where Greg and Alex were like talking with someone who is like very into Taskmaster and everything. And Greg mentioned that he likes to see effort put into
yes,
the tasks and especially the task where they have to bring something in
yes,
because he said we give them months and weeks to do this, and if they just bring in like probably like Fatya, just a bag of crisps, he's ticked because he's like,
yes.
why you had all this time and this was all you came up with? Are you serious? And so I think he's very much kind of grading them on the effort that they put in. And even if
Yes.
something doesn't like necessarily match one to one, if they put in a lot of effort and are trying really hard, I think he kind of gives them more points based on how much effort he thinks they're putting into it. So, yeah.
Well, and I feel like, I don't know, season four was a little bit subjective if I remember. So like Hugh was a little bit more straightforward and he was just kind of like, I want to get this done as efficiently as possible. And like, yeah, Greg isn't gonna love that. So
No, he wasn't as creative with a lot of the things, and Noel was very much creative and like taking a
yeah.
lot of liberties with the tasks compared to a lot of the other like cast members that season. But I will say that Hugh in his group tasks, he was so adorable with the woman, the comedian that he was with. I'm not remember her name. It's
The
like
woman
Mel,
from
right?
yeah, Nell, I think, yeah.
Nell. Okay. Yeah, they were so adorable together. I loved watching the two of them, and they were
Mel, sorry.
Mel. Okay.
Yeah, Mel.
They were very sweet and they were a highlight of the season, seeing the two of them
Yes.
together.
I
But
really liked Mel. She was terrible at it, but she always wanted to be good. Like I think that
yeah,
that's
she
like
and
she
she had
was
such a great
charming.
attitude where she was just like, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that task.
I recently saw the one where she she was supposed to be camouflaged and she misunderstood the task.
She misunderstood the task and she just like hid and she was still within view.
And Noel was like, "Look at your little feet," and you could see her feet on the camera. And she goes, "You know, I walked away from that one, and I thought, got it."
Yeah, she's
So
adorable.
funny. She was so bad, but she was so adorable. So, um,
Yeah, it was a pretty good season. So now I'm in season 5 of Taskmaster
oh, good.
and we'll see how it goes.
I
But
really
Hannah, what
liked
have you
season
been
five.
reading and watching? And
So for reading, I read There's Always This Year on Basketball and Ascension by Hanif I Abdurraqib. Sorry, I just butchered his last name for a second. He is an essayist, and he's amazing. He's written a couple of things that I've been meaning to read, but my book club read this book a couple months ago, and I hadn't gotten to it. Um, but he wrote A Little Devil in America, and he's written They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us. And this book is excellent. It's very much a book of essays where he kind of goes through his experience with basketball as someone who's from Ohio and like how important it is to Black Americans. So, kind of on theme with what you were talking about. Like,
Hmm.
it's so uniquely, Black or Native Indian and things like that. Like, basketball is very important in this like growing up. Um, he was growing up with LeBron in Ohio and how important it was,
Hmm.
and seeing this like golden era of different things and different legends being born. And he kind of just goes through it. And then, the journey he has with his own blackness. And it's very well done. I did the audiobook. He reads it himself. He's an amazing essayist. Like, They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us is on some of like the best books of all time, and I can't wait to read it because I think it will be just as amazing. Like, this was so good. I'm not a huge basketball fan, but I can appreciate his love of the game and just like the
We're just
discussions
not
he.
sports people.
We're not sports people. I used to watch football, and then I kind of got bummed with the whole, concussion after concussion.
The
But like
CTE of it all.
the CT of it all, but and he like talks about LeBron and how like LeBron, I guess when he was in high school, there was a ton of controversy because he was suddenly driving a Hummer, and a lot of people and it kind of talks about like the fascination with whiteness of like with white people on expecting black people to suffer until they succeed, and
Hmm.
people were swearing up and down, and like I'm not saying one way or another. Someone could come on here and be like, well, you don't understand, this was what's happening, but like he talks about the fact that like a lot of people said it was improper, like college scouts giving him these funds, and then you find out that like LeBron's mom a um took out a loan based on the fact that he was going to make a lot of money in the future, and
Wow.
people were willing to give him a loan on this. And he was talking about like people didn't like to see that he hadn't made it big yet, but his family was still willing to prosper on making it big, and like just that discussion of this need to see people come up the right way. And I think that is
Hmm.
very important when looking at blackness, but looking overall at society, at how we
Hmm.
treat people who are poor and the way you are supposed to be poor. I think there is a
Hmm.
fascination with making sure that you never have any peace as a poor person. I always talk about it from like people who make comments on poor people who have the best cell phones. And I think there are many ways to think about that, but one of the ways to think about it is a lot of people who are poor do not have access to consistent Wi-Fi. So they may need a
Hmm.
phone plan in order to do their homework because they don't have access
Right.
to a home laptop, or they don't have access to these things. And so, yes, maybe they're not making the best decision long term, but also we don't have them set up to make decisions long term. And so, like, why are we putting the onus on the person who's just trying to survive and not the
Hmm.
onus on we as a society to make sure people are able to survive? Like, I think it's just so hard. I think about it
Hmm.
with like these apps that say like, oh, we'll pay you today, or you have credit loans where like people need money now, so they're willing to
Hmm.
suffer later because you're trying to put off your own suffering as long as you can. And I do think we all have this fascination with like, well, you're supposed to be doing that because you're supposed to struggle. I'm like, are we supposed to struggle? I'm not sure.
I completely agree with you, and I think there's also just like this lack of education that exists with like people like people not understanding that there is long-term suffering if you're only making like minimum payments on a huge amount of debt, that type of
Yes.
situation. And just like understanding that you'll never get out of
Yep.
huge amounts of debt. And I think too, like you were getting at, like, oh, yeah, somebody's going to get their paycheck and they're not going to spend it like quote unquote societally correctly.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get things that they maybe need immediately or
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to kind of hit some of the emotional burden. Because I think
Yes.
that a lot of people will, get big TVs or they'll get
Mm-hmm.
subscription to, a TV app or something like that because
Yep.
they want to. watch whatever show that someone has been talking about or
Hmm.
what have you, and they need a TV to access it. So,
Yep.
and there are people that'll be like, well, they shouldn't be doing that. They should be doing this. And it's like, so are they just expected to just like go
Sit
home
at
and
home and do nothing.
sit there until they have to go back to their job where they don't make enough money to buy food? Okay, sure.
Yep. No, exactly. And I think that that's just something that bothers me. And,
It should bother everyone, honestly.
everyone's bad with money in different ways. It's just
Yes.
because someone is suffering more, they should
Hmm.
have to suffer all the time, which is inherently terrible. So,
And it again gets into the talks of privilege. Like some people are born with more privilege and are able to access things based on who they are more
yep.
easily, such as
Hmm.
jobs.
Yep. So yeah, and then for I also read Assistant to the Villain by
Oh yeah,
Hannah
how was that?
Nicole Maurer. It was very enjoyable. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's kind of just a romp of a book. I wouldn't say like this
Hmm.
is amazing. Like it's pretty straightforward.
That's what it
Uh,
looks like to me. Just like it looks like this is a very fun book, and
yes.
stop.
Yeah,
Like I've been
exactly.
wanting to read it and I haven't like picked it up yet, but I'm thinking that's like a fun one to maybe do on audio just because it looks like a fun
I
book.
did it on audio, ton of fun on audio, just like you're listening, you're enjoying, you're letting this romance wash over you. I would
Hmm.
say it feels more YA or like new adult because it's
Hmm.
just kind of like very lighthearted. I will say that I knew something was up, but I wasn't fully expecting the ending. So I was actually
Hmm.
surprised. Like there was something
Cool.
there that I was like, this is weird and I don't love this. But then like when it actually came, I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting how
Hmm.
deep that weirdness went, I guess is the best way to say it. Um, but it's also just it's very funny because you're just reading about this person where they're like they're a villain and then like you only hear about the things that are villainous because I think the book is a
Hmm.
little scared of like, well, if we actually see him do villainous things then you might not like him anymore, and I was like, well, you told me he did all these things, so like you can let me see it too.
Sure.
Like people are complicated, it's okay. But yeah, what a romp of a novel. I had a good
Everyone loved the
time.
villain in Nimona, so
Oh, see, exactly. So you just gotta like trust it a little bit more. But yeah, I had a fun time. It was a good book. And I can't wait to get the next one. So I'm currently finishing up a trilogy, Conjuring of Magic, and I realized I
oh, okay.
haven't
Is
I
that
never
V.E. Schwab?
yes, that's V.E.
Okay.
Schwab. And I read the first two at the beginning of this podcast, and then I
Hmm.
forgot I was reading them. And so I looked up what happened in the last two books and picked up the third one. So,
Oh, nice.
so I'm reading that one right now, and then I'll probably turn to a couple of more of my like short novel audiobooks, but then I
Hmm.
think I'll turn back to number two for Assistant to the Villain. So,
Is that the
um,
apprentice to the villain is number two?
yes, I believe
Okay.
so. Um, yeah, but it was good. It has enough uniqueness. And then for watching, I had a Sunday where I did nothing. And instead of reading the book like I should have been, I just watched a ton of Netflix documentaries.
Nice.
So first I watched Fit for TV, the reality of The Biggest Loser. So it was really good. Aubrey Gordon was on it.
Hmm.
She is a like fat activist that both Laura and I listen to.
Hmm.
You're
Maintenance
wrong,
phase
or
is her
Maintenance
podcast.
Phase. Yes, sorry. I was thinking about her co-host other podcast that he has 5 million of. But yeah,
Hmm.
Maintenance Phase, and she's probably the smartest person on the documentary. I will say that like they this documentary is getting a ton of following on TikTok and a bunch of social media places just because people, I mean, I remember The Biggest Loser. I had family members who adored this TV show. People
Okay.
bought a ton of Jillian Michaels stuff when it was out. So, like, this was very peak fat phobic TV, I would say.
I
The
don't
era.
ever remember watching this, but like I knew of it because it was such a phenomenon.
Yes. So it was I'd never seen a full season. I know I've watched certain bits and pieces of it with family members. Um and it was of its time very much. Like this was during the supreme era of like skinny jeans or nothing, and I think that we were like, if you look at the way Misha Barton was treated when she had like 5 pounds of actual healthy weight on her, and people would be like, she's so fat, look at this roll on her skinny low-rise jeans. And it's like, you mean her abs? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, um, the the documentary goes deep into just the overall harmful narrative of the show and how it was really espousing like health and trying to change these people's lives. And they have two of the executive producers on there. They have one of the trainers, and then they have the main doctor who was there the entire time, as well as various contestants who had various rewards. Like I would say that there's two sisters on there who still think very fondly of the show and think it changed their lives. They're still in a good
Okay.
relationship with the trainer. Um, there's one woman who had a very contentious relationship with the trainer. He obviously still very much dislikes her.
Mhm.
And I think and like the executive producers, like, they discuss some of the things like, well, we were making reality TV. There are certain things you need to do. Because they talk about the first season and how they didn't know if it was supposed to be uplifting or a joke. And so they had people doing kind of awful things where you're just watching people make fun of fat people at the end of the day. Like they had to move things with their mouths. They had to like do all this stuff that was very much, an extended fat joke.
Mhm.
One of the ladies who had a really bad time with the show talked about how they made her and her friend get on parallel bars and like hold them. And they were like, well, we obviously couldn't lift our body weight. So you're just making fun of fat people trying to lift themselves up.
Mhm.
And it was very hard to watch. You're watching these things where this doctor who already had like morally gray stuff, like he had worked for one of the football franchises, and he like talked about how like you were expected to like okay them for to return, and like he was successful there. And then he moved to The Biggest Loser, and he was trying to do his best, quote unquote, is what he said, but he was also being like pushback from the trainers where he constantly said he was trying to convince people like, hey, don't just eat 800 calories, like you're working out for 10 hours a day,
Mhm.
that's not enough. And the trainers were very much like, no, you have to keep working out, you have to keep doing this. And they have a lot of cuts to Jillian Michaels like screaming in people's faces that they're disgusting. So you're just kind of seeing Jillian Michaels like berate these people. And then the quote unquote nice one, like I would say he's still very tone deaf nowadays, where he's very much like someone pointed out at the beginning, they have these trainers who are meant to train the Hollywood elite, who are always like naturally thin people who probably exercise quite a bit because it's part of their job. And they probably didn't know how to like get fat people to move quickly or like safely. And they
Mhm.
did follow this one woman who literally wasn't allowed to exercise because of like all the stuff they were doing. She had like rapid muscle deterioration.
Oh
Like
my
it was
gosh.
this very dangerous scenario. And they talk about how frustrated the two trainers got at her because she kept losing weight because she was doing what she was supposed to be, which is like being healthy, not moving too much, but like, and she had played the game like it was a game. So she was playing it.
Mhm.
And you could still tell that, like, the guy, I think his name is Bobby, he was like still furious that that woman was successful. And it just kind of shows that, like, I think Aubrey Gordon, like, points it out where, like, fat people are often very much seen as just fat bodies that you can, like, look down on, but they're not seen as people. And it does feel like
Mhm.
this was a competition that very much saw where the trainers were like, well, I'm just trying to look and like make these people successful. And it's like, okay, but you're trying to make them successful because of you. And it's these
Mhm.
people who are doing things that are unattainable long term. And it's not actually about making realistic goals. Um, and like the one person that they regret is like the one woman who was obviously anorexic when she came out and people realized like they had gone too far. But like one of the winners was on and he was like, yeah, I was like not eating. I was just doing a cleanse. I was just doing this. Like all the winners were very much like unhealthy in their lifestyles, while also noting that like there's still a lot of stuff like they did talk about Ozempic on it, and two of the prime like former contestants were on Ozempic.
Mhm.
So I think it, and it was further complicated in my mind by the fact that Netflix was the one putting it on because all I could do was like in 12 years we're going to be seeing a Love is Blind version of this where they talk about all the alcohol and they talk about all
Yeah.
the ways that these people were
The
treated or the people
producers.
they brought on the show who were dangerous. Like all of these things will
Hmm.
come to light because it's really hard to make ethical reality television because at the end of the day, like unless you're talking about like,
People love drama and
mm-hmm,
the producers know how to stir up stuff
yeah.
and they will to get
Well, and
more
I think
views, even if
it's
it's
weird
unethical.
because if we look at the history of reality television, it started with like it started with a lot of different things, but some of the major
Hmm.
ones I remember growing up are like the OC or the not the OC, but whatever that was called, The Hills.
Okay.
And then the one it came
I never watched that one.
I never watched a ton of these, but a lot of them were scripted dramas, where it's
Okay.
like, hey, we're gonna invite you guys all here, go talk to them, go talk to. So it's not fully scripted, but it's like semi-scripted, where like producers are trying to create drama, and half of it isn't really real, and everyone knows that
Hmm.
it's not real who's on the set and just doing what they need to do to have a good edit. And I think some of the more ethical ones are like the Real Housewives franchise. If you hear about people who are fans of the Real Housewives franchise, they know that half of it is fake, that they're just taking these women and putting them into spaces where they're upset and fighting with each other. And everyone kind of knows that, but they're okay with it because it's kind of for the drama element, but it's still kind of ethical. I think some of these other ones are just like really hard to make ethically because you're trying to create drama out of people's lives.
I
Um,
mean, I think there probably are some ethical ones because I'm thinking of like The Incredible Dr. Pol, where it's like that's a reality show that
oh, I
follows
don't
this
know that
man's
one.
life. He's a veterinarian
Oh, okay.
in, I believe, Michigan. And I feel like those type of shows, like those are ethical shows, but the reality competition shows, I think,
Yes.
are a whole different ball game.
Yes. I think that's what
So,
I'm talking about, where it's like reality television competition or like
mhm. Yeah, I
it's
think
just
it's
hard.
tricky to group together all reality shows because I do think there are shows that are likely ethical because they're just depicting people's lives.
Yes. I
But
think that's correct.
there are going to be a lot of, especially the reality competition shows that are going to be unethical because there is this competition element in it.
Yeah.
Although would say that there are some that are not competitions that are unethical as well, like the Kardashians, like that's probably likely extremely unethical to just know all of the horrible things those billionaires are doing. So,
Right. Yes, agreed. So there's a lot of variations, but I do think it's weird that Netflix created this. Where it's like, hey guys, hey
and
Pot,
it's not
look at
just
that
Love is
kettle
Blind
over
that they
there.
get
You're
called
both,
on.
yeah, it's all of them. Like they just, I think it's very strange that Netflix was the one who was like, you know what, we really need to do a deep dive on something we are very guilty of,
They,
but with
they
fat
made a
people.
Squid
Like,
Game reality
yeah.
show. Like, come on.
So it was really good. It's interesting because you're still seeing a lot of people. Like I think we've talked about it before. I think fat phobia is something that people have internalized so
Hmm.
harshly, including myself as a fat person. Like
Hmm.
it's just
Hmm.
certain things you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I've definitely internalized harmful stereotypes about myself.
Hmm.
Um, and you can definitely see the people struggle with that because they are people who were fat for a long time and did want to make these changes and, still have some of that harm, input on
Hmm.
them. And then the next documentary I watched was Bad Influence, The Dark Side of Kidfluencing. Um,
Okay. That sounds like a
this
lot of money mismanagement.
this show was wild. So this is luckily about
Is this on
children.
Netflix too?
This is on Netflix too. This was about something that I did not know anything about, which I am thankful for as an adult woman that I was like, I don't know any of these children. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I should know any of these children.
Yeah.
I'm an adult woman. But this is a documentary specifically about a group called The Squad. Um, and
Okay,
it
I've
was
never heard of this.
run by a momager and her this woman
I
named
hate that
Tiffany.
term,
I
momager.
know. They called her momager the entire time. But her name is Tiffany Smith, and she has this child named Piper Raquel. And she was like a single mom in Georgia, and she started like putting her daughter in pageants and things like that. And then she started having her go on like the original version of TikTok. and she was posting a bunch, and she got really popular as a child who's like 8. And then they moved to LA, and she keeps like going doing stuff on YouTube. And then the she was like on a web series of some sort, and then she started getting all these friends where the mom started having them all come to their house and make all these YouTube videos. And it was kind of just like a content channel that like some of these adult people have had, in recent years, where
Hmm.
everyone's on each other's YouTube videos. There's like a whole universe that you're following. You're watching all these kids' video, but it's all like between the ages of 10 to 14 that they were all involved in this. And it kind of does a deep dive on all the dark side of these things. There are a ton of allegations that go into this that I'm not going to get onto here. You can go
Sure.
watch but it is very wild. I think like the documentary tried to do a good job of pointing out that like this young girl is not at fault because she was the one who is
Hmm.
being placed into these. So like even if you are a child who wants to be a YouTube star, you are still being controlled by your parent.
Yeah.
And if you have a parent who wants you to become famous at all costs, or you are now the reason that your parent like has a home, they are willing to do things that put you in harm's way.
Hmm.
The documentary does a good job of discussing that like children on social media, like 95% of their fan base are adult white or adult older men, um, which is gross
Yikes.
if you think about it. And
Don't
like
like that statistic too much, but
and like in
okay.
the series, they talk about like how all these kids had to start having fake crushes on each other and these fake relationships with each other because it
Why?
makes them more popular. And the thing is like I do remember being that age. I was obsessed with people liking each other and dating each other, but like these are children using their real name and their real personalities
Hmm.
to say, I actually like this person. And there were like kids who dated out of that and like kids whose relationships broke up because one of them left this squad. And that's very confusing. And they do have like some good discussions of like when children are told to do things by adults, they want to trust them because they're supposed to be this authority
Hmm.
figure. And it's very confusing for them when they realize that what's being asked of them is wrong.
Right.
Um, with that said, I think it's very hard because these are all children who were obviously very harmed by what happened to them, but they are also people whose parents did opt in to letting them try to become famous.
Hmm.
So the parents who are on there are, of course, being like, well, we know you'll make us out to be the villains. We know that we're in the wrong because we like trusted her. But like at the same time, it's like, okay, so you do recognize that, but also you did do this. Like you did allow your
Right.
kids to have like 10-hour work days, all in
Jeez.
the event of like being famous. And like there's just, it was just so sad to watch all these children and like hear them talk about this because there are certain parts that are very dark. But you're also like, okay, you just feel at a loss because like these kids
Hmm.
are like 16 or 17. And it just kind of shows like with the fact that social media has been around for a really, really long time, especially with this age group, like how dark it can go because it's a bunch of kids who don't really realize, and it's definitely not as regulated as
Sure.
even like child entertainment, which is still very unregulated. So it was just very sad to see all these small children just feel kind of
I've
broken at
seen
the
a
age of
lot of
16.
stuff recently, like just being posted on social media where, like, these are not even like stars or creators, really. They're people that are like being warned, like, hey, let's not post your child's picture on
Hmm.
whatever social media. And even like using the emoji to cover their face isn't always one
It's not
hundo get
always
out of
safe.
jail
Yep.
free situation. So I think in the age that we are in, digitally and with social media and everything. Unfortunately, it seems like maybe the best option is to just like not, I mean, don't exploit your child. That should be common sense, but apparently it's not. But also maybe just not taking photos of your child and putting them online for
Yeah.
people to see or videos either. It
Well,
seems
and
a little sketchy.
at the end of the day, like a ton of this is just like this poor girl is 17 now, and like her
Hmm.
YouTube channel got demonetized, which her mom was making like $500,000 a month off this.
Hmm.
And like, you're putting on that psychological space of like, well, now we might lose our house, now we might
Yeah.
not lose this stuff, and you're 17. But then she was being put on this like website that's not on OnlyFans because like it's not like the
Hmm.
sex, but like it is much more provocative imagery. It is much more, and it's just like it's
That's
putting this
ick.
girl in an even more dangerous situation. And also they like I was looking up a couple articles because I was interested, and they talked about how like she has a boyfriend, they're both 17, and they're like quote unquote moving in together, and they wondered if they were doing it to like detract from the documentary, but also like you're a mom who's letting your 17-year-old move in with
Hmm.
her boyfriend who's 17. Like
Hmm.
it's just it's really dark, and like one of the
Yeah.
moms who was on it, her son is no contact with her because he's still a content creator and she didn't want him to be, and like the dad was totally on board and his older sister was a content creator, and it's just like all of these people who are now content creating, it's a billion-dollar industry, and I just
Hmm.
don't love that it's up to a ton of children. Like that's so,
Yeah.
and it's just really weird because you're watching it, and like as someone who grew up with online media, who grew up like during the era of Smosh and stuff like that, like I too watched a ton of teenage content, but it was like fake videos.
I mean, I watched a lot of Disney Channel, and there was like obviously a lot of exploitation of Disney Channel
Hmm.
stars, Nickelodeon stars, and there were probably lots of momagers and I hate that word,
Yeah.
and a lot of relationships being pushed, that type of thing too. So it's these things cycle. They're very cyclic and depending on the age that we're in. But right now I think that, social media and YouTube, TikTok, there it's a very much like quick turnaround. We have to continue creating content type thing.
Hmm.
And I've seen a lot of this too, just from like reality stars from like Love on the Spectrum, even where they're doing a lot of content creation type stuff. And I'm like, this is making Love on the Spectrum less wholesome that
Yeah.
we have these. And I get it. People, if they're going to have a huge following and they can make money off of it, it's hard to deny people side gigs or gigs in general when we're in the economy and financial state that we're all in. But at the same time, it feels icky. I
Yeah.
especially don't like this happening to minors and then their money being taken away from them and them being exploited and manipulated.
Well,
Uh,
and Illinois has legislation now that you have to put money away if you're using your kids for content creation.
Good.
Like if you are monetized, you are not allowed to make money without putting a portion away from it because
Hmm.
you're doing it off the back of your kids. And people in California passed that, and then a ton of these people moved to Tennessee immediately. And that just shows that like it is not about the care of your children at that
Hmm.
point. Like you're not doing this to protect their
Right.
assets, you're doing it to protect your own assets, and that's awful.
Yeah.
And like that's
Ugh.
this child, I think she moved to like Las Vegas at that point. I forget, but
Hmm.
like it was very sad,
Yeah, it
very
is sad.
dark. And like I think at the end of the day, allegations true or not, that mom was a very immature person who had a very, very cute daughter that she was able to put on to social media and make a huge amount of profits off of.
Hmm.
And like, I don't, she looks immature. She did some immature things. Like, they have her on video kissing a 17-year-old boy and like all these
Hmm.
things. And like, it's unfortunate that this,
Yeah.
these poor children, because even these children who are out of it now, like, they still, uh, yeah, it's all still out there.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, but those are, and then I watched this is so small, and then we can turn to it, but I watched a Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson documentary on
Oh,
Netflix.
okay.
I didn't realize how much of that case probably inspired Gillian Flynn.
Probably most of
I,
it.
I was watching it and I was like, well, this is just ripped from the headlines, apparently. Everyone watch Gone Girl. That's pretty much what it is. Except like in that one, he's
Real
innocent,
life.
and in real life, he was not. But like his family still very much believes in his innocence. His sister-in-law went to law
Really?
school to get him out of prison, and it's like, ma'am, he admitted he was in the area where they found her body.
Wow.
Like he lied to a bunch of people. He was incredibly guilty. Um, yeah, it's wild. So. Yeah, that was my other avoiding reading Proven Guilty, where Scott Peterson was in fact proven guilty. So uh should we dive in?
Let's do it.
Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum. So we come into Harry looping in Thomas, his former roommate. Did that happen in this book? Because I feel like I'm in a fugue state at this point in
Looping
time.
in Thomas?
He like reaches out to Thomas to like get his. Oh, wait, sorry. You're right. I can't keep this book straight because so much plot has freaking happened. He goes back outside and introduces Charity to
I was gonna
Thomas
say
because Thomas
Charity
is
and
already
Thomas
here.
meet, and she's
Yeah.
like laying down the law with him. She's like, I know who you are, and you are kind of a bad boy, and you
And I
have to
don't.
behave.
And I'm here for my daughter because my only job is mom because my husband won't let me have a life.
Because I have an absentee husband.
And I have so many children, they're coming out of my ears.
And
Uh,
I just left them with Father Fort Hill.
babysitter extraordinaire.
Also,
So
they have like this weird argument about what mouse is, and I'm like, why are we still trying to figure out what this dog is? I thought we
wasn't he a
settled on it.
hellhound?
Yes, I was gonna say,
Like,
didn't we know this was a hellhound? And now they're like, I think he might be like an elkhound or a German shepherd of some sort. And I'm like, what are people talking about?
that was a wild tangent where I was like, I could have read three less pages if you just didn't have this argument.
I was so annoyed by that because I'm like, this is extremely
This
contradictory
is
to everything I thought.
this is a 400-page Dresden novel. You can take out that little tangent. You don't need it. Like it's so wild. But like,
We get it. Mouse is cool. We don't have to be like, is he part
well,
German Shepherd? Should we do one of those doggy DNAs? Like, come on.
Harry also is just like, hey, could you call these numbers, Thomas? I have to go shower to like get in the right mindset for my
But
magic.
he's showering so hard that he's like, I'm in pain.
And then he like goes down and Lachelle is like, I don't trust you doing this magic because you could kill yourself. And of
And he's
course
like,
I'll be
loophole.
fine. But like I wouldn't want to train someone else who's new. And Harry's like, okay, well then you're gonna have to help me without the temptation because this is getting
Well, she's
ridiculous.
like, you would really kill yourself? And he's like, I would do anything rather than let down this girl. And I'm like, really?
And then he realizes that like he has to think about Molly and her siblings and the fact that she has a family and that can control his search for her. But he's also using baby hair,
Which they find out doesn't work because she's changed so much as a
which also
person.
does make sense. Like you can't just be like DNA match. Like that's not how you do it.
But then what they do
But
is
then
DNA match.
but then because we
Hannah,
want
you just contradicted yourself because you're like, they can't do DNA match. That makes sense. So what do? DNA match.
well, also it's DNA match because he's like, Charity, you can help me find her. But also it's your faith. Like that's the important part. You believe in finding Molly.
Gosh, they've changed so much together as mother and daughter.
Oh gosh. You've never believed in me, Dad. um,
I literally have on here, but that baby hair won't work for the tracking spell because Molly has changed so much. I roll.
well, and also they're just like so Murphy shows up and
Well, Thomas
Murphy's
called her.
yeah, Thomas did call her and he asked her to come help. And the others are quote unquote coming once,
Hmm.
they can arrive. And Murphy's just like sitting there being like, well, she is the girl's mother. So there is a strong connection here. But also we find out that Murphy, in coming to help Harry, like screwed up the entire investigation at some point
Yeah, so
because
now
she's
she's in
not
hot water with
there,
her job.
which doesn't make sense because, like, I don't know. You could take a personal day, but she doesn't take any of those. And
Here's
like,
the thing,
that's
it
not how
makes sense from the
investigations.
standpoint of Harry has to have a more important line of work than her, and she has to be demoted, which, spoiler, she eventually is.
Yeah, but anyway, so Charity helps them find. Oh, and I did forget that we do get like a cool moment where Harry's using the tracking spell and he gets like
Mhm.
his psyche goes into the little map.
The
And
little Chicago, yeah.
yeah, and I did like that. I feel like not Dresden, Butcher does his best work when he's like world building because you and I both enjoyed the like, oh, magic matters when there's color to it because it matters to Harry. And
Hmm.
like, oh, he made this little Chicago as
And
a
when he's
hobby.
contemplating things, because Harry gets like in these moods where he's like contemplating stuff, and
Hmm.
I'm like, I dig it because we're getting all of this like, well, it could have been like this, but and I'm like, okay, you know what? I kind of am on board with that. Maybe it's depression. Who
Yeah.
knows?
But so they all they all are like, okay, we know where Molly is, and we all have to battle up for a fight. And Charity's like,
Hmm.
I have to come with because I'm important too.
But the thing is, they don't necessarily know where she is. They know that she's in the Never Never, and they're like, we have
Yes.
to figure out like where she crossed over and stuff just to
And
get her
so,
out of there.
but they have a strong inkling because it's at the movie theater that was shut down. And
Yes.
there are so many times in these books where I don't know what's going to happen, but I am not surprised. Like the second
Hmm.
it happens, I'm like, oh, yeah, that is exactly what was happening because there were so many hints to it.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense when they were hints. It's kind of like if you ever read a Sherlock Holmes novel, a lot of times they're ineffective because the actual resolution of what's happening is not something that was ever on the page. Like you
Hmm.
can't pick up the hints. It's just like, oh, I remember I read the first one and they're like, oh, just so you know, there's this entire history of Mormonism. And you're sitting there like, well, that was never even indicated on the
Like, why
page.
was that?
So
Okay.
why is that suddenly a huge plot point for the resolution of this mystery novel? I
Right.
can't deduce what's happening. Sometimes I feel like that happens where it's like, why is his movie theater shut down? I bet it's important. And then it's finally important and it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, but I didn't know like there was no like, ooh, it
There was
feels like
no
there's
context.
fairy magic coming out of there, or it feels weird, or it smells
Hmm.
like iron and wine. There was nothing there. So it's just like, yeah, I guess she was here all along. Um,
I do want to mention though, like before they even get to the theater, that he's like got the whole crew there because Lily and whatever his name is show up on a motorcycle too. And so like
yes.
Murphy and Thomas and Charity and Lily and whatever that guy's name, I can't remember. The
Fix.
Fix.
How did you forget Fix?
I can't remember his name. They all are like prepping for battle and Harry's like giving him a pep talk. And then Charity like has all of this like armor and mail and she's like putting it on and dispersing it amongst people. And Harry's like, wow, she's actually got a hot bod, and I see where Molly gets her looks from.
Well, and
And
also there's a moment of him being like, "Where'd you get all this stuff?" And she's like, "Do you think that my husband didn't teach me how to fight? He
I do
had to
think that
practice
because he's
against
never
some."
around.
But she's like, "He had to practice against someone." And it's
I
just like,
believe
oh,
he was not practicing with her.
but apparently she learned, she taught him everything he knows, Laura.
She's lying. She's trying to give this illusion that they're a good couple.
Um, yeah,
He's
we're
gone
told
all
there.
the time.
He is God all the time. He literally said, "You two are in conflict. My underage daughter ran away from home. None of my business."
I don't know how they have so many kids because
I
he's so absent.
um, because it's just one and done, Laura. But yes, they all show up. They all gear up for battle to go into this
Yeah.
theater.
And then Lily isn't able to like directly help Harry, so he like transfers the debt that
Yes.
she owes him to
Which
Charity.
again, I
Convenience.
like the world building like this. I actually like the fairy rules where Harry is like, hey,
Hmm.
Lily is not able to directly help me because she was told by the queen she can't help, but I'm going to transfer my favor over to Charity, and now Charity can ask Lily, or yeah, to
Hmm.
help find her daughter.
Yeah,
I actually
so
think
she
that
can get
that's
help so they can get Molly out of there. So it's like loophole, another one.
that's helpful. And so Lily is like, okay, I'm going to go in. I'm going to open the door for you guys and I'm going to keep it open. And Fix is going to help keep the winter court out so you guys can go in and save
To which I
Molly.
put Hodor. Spoilers.
Spoilers for the TV show, but not the books.
I couldn't resist.
And so they have to go into the movie theater and it becomes kind of like throughout this entire section, things kept happening. And then later I would be like, was that actually resolved? And the answer was yes, but also not really
I
because
mean,
they
so
go.
there's like all these fetches and everything that are like attacking them and stuff, and they're from like movies because there's like
Yes.
a cat that's I'm assuming the cat from Pet Cemetery, and then there's like Chucky,
Yes, but
who
it's
like
not called Chucky. It's called
it's
like
Bucky or
Hucky or
something.
some Bucky or something. I forget, but
Yeah,
like, and it's from Nature Red, not Pet Cemetery. Like, there's all these like, Butcher couldn't get the rights to utilize
right.
any of
But
these
somehow he got
things.
Spider-Man, which is baffling. Disney can't even get Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So whatever. But yeah. So I don't know. He like gets injured too and they have to like wrap him up. But he mentions like that they look like and this is another like world building thing where he mentions that they look like these monsters that like people have commonly seen that they wouldn't
Hmm.
believe are real, but it's to like instill more fear in people by bringing these
Yes.
things to life.
Um, and so they like get to the edge where Lily's gonna help open the Never Never, and she
Hmm.
does say like, "Hey, I can't really give you guys all that much help because my magic will react negatively to Mab."
Well,
Um,
and it'd be like a big like portal to like let a bunch of stuff loose into
mhm.
Chicago.
Yes, and so she is going to send him with like this little tiny bit of like light to help
Hmm.
lead the way.
A cute butterfly.
A cute little butterfly. And Harry's like, all right, let's go round two. And so
Hmm.
he crosses into the Never Never. And she says, good luck, Harry. And they have to walk across like this graveyard of like ogres as they cross
Hmm.
into winter. And it is dark and it is spooky. And it was getting into an action scene that Hannah didn't care about.
Well, it's basically, and there is another Hodor moment. Hold the door. But yeah, they're in like this icy fortress that's Mab's fortress because she's in the Winter Court,
Called the
and
Arctic Artist Tour. Artist
hmm,
Tour.
and then there's like all they get into this courtyard and there's like all these bones and everything, just like tons of them. They're like they're probably troll bones, and they're like, how long have these been dead? And he's like, I can't really tell because I'm like seeing their memories weirdly. I've never had that happen before. Okay, cool. Maybe two
Well, and
days,
he
maybe
says
two
that
weeks.
time also passes differently, so they could have fallen 1,000 years
Hmm.
ago by the local clock or like 20 minutes ago, so they just don't know.
And then they have to run because there's all these fetchers like coming after them, and there's another hold the door moment. So,
Because so many people like keep getting lost and they're like, I can't help anymore. You go on without me. I'll hold it here. And Thomas and Murph get left behind
mhm.
and they have to go up this spiral staircase. And
And they're just
Charity
like
is
following that little beautiful butterfly that has a bunch of hellfire in
and
her.
Charity is just screaming like, I'm only good for being a mother. Where's my daughter?
Well, because they hear Molly screaming
Yes.
too.
And so they kind of find her with the
Oh,
scarecrow.
I forgot. She, so Molly is screaming, and so Charity, they get to the door, and Charity has to break it down, but she first is like, let me say a Hail Mary, and then I'll
Oh my
break the
gosh,
door
she
down. And
does say a
Harry's
Hail
like,
Mary.
God's on her side. She would have
Literally,
never been able to break down that door.
Laura, you are gripping the tendrils of this plot point because this was just a giant battle scene. So I simply did not care and I did not take notes because I did not care. I was like, well, they had a battle. They
I
found
have so
Molly.
many notes because I have at one point written, what is happening with this book?
Well, and of course, like the scarecrow attacks them, and Harry's like, I
Hmm.
can't overtake the scarecrow. And then he's like, well, I can overtake it because I realized I didn't have fear. I just had the need to kill it, I guess. I forget, but like that's pretty much what happens.
He realizes basically like controlling his fear
Yes,
is
it all
the way
happens
to
so
get
fast. So
over it all.
if Harry Dresden can only rely on his instincts, he can do no
Yeah.
wrong.
And so
And
basically, like,
he sets the
he,
scarecrow on fire.
and then Charity slices at it and it turns
Yes.
back into one of those bat things.
Yes. And so they find Molly. She's laying there, but then there's a man literally crucified behind
Yes.
her. And we
This
find
has
out
so
that's,
many nods to religion, in specifically Christianity in
yes. I
this
mean,
novel, in this last section where I was like, wow, we just went hardcore.
well, because we find out that like Lloyd Slate is there, the Winter
Mhm.
Knight. And all of a
He's
sudden,
like completely ravaged and he's like, please just kill me.
please
And
just kill me. And Harry's like, I will not do that. And then Leah comes out and she's like,
she's,
she looks wrecked. His
well, and
fairy,
she's been imprisoned there.
yeah, and she's Leah is Harry's fairy godmother for all of those who don't remember. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, she is now a fallen woman, even though she is a predator who did sexually assault Harry on multiple occasions. But I digress.
She's kind of
Um,
speaking like nonsense too. Like some of the stuff
yes.
she's saying, I'm like, what does that even mean? And then she's like, release me. Don't release me. Yes, do it.
Well, so she's talking to Harry, and she's kind of like Lloyd is being kept. Almost, it's intimated that like Lloyd is being kept until Harry is ready to take up the Winter Knight's like
Hmm.
mantle, and Lloyd is made to suffer by the fact that Mab um saves him and makes him like need her over and over and over
Hmm.
again. So it's incredibly psychological torture. Like
Yeah.
that's all it is, point blank. And so Leah is like, please release me. And then she's like, don't, if you do, it will be a problem. Like,
She like screams at him, and Thomas is like, "Who is this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a friend of my mom's." And Thomas is like, "So was my dad. That's not a good thing."
well, because Harry's like, I think we should save her. And Thomas is like, please don't. This woman is not okay. And Harry's
Thomas is
like,
like, "I know that you don't trust my judgment right now, but do not save her."
so they like pick up Molly, they start running away, and then there's a statue shaped like Mab and it winks at
Hmm.
Harry. And
Yeah,
Harry's like, that can't be good.
yeah.
But also during this time, like because they're fighting, all of a sudden the little butterfly becomes this magical power that like
Hmm.
pours forth water into the fountain of the winter court.
Hmm.
And they all start running away with this like magic kind of following them and helping protect them. And all of a sudden, all of these like winter court fetches are on top of them and about to attack them.
Well, and he
Um,
uses like the fire with
yes,
to like the summer court fire in this
yes.
square to like repel all these like snow ogres and stuff.
Yes, and this, and Harry realizes as they're running that this was a distraction
Hmm.
that Lily wanted to create so that they could run and go help the White Council, who is being attacked by this Red Court, by these
Yeah.
Red Court vampires through the Never Never. And so this was a whole entire play to get people away from everything. And Harry
Right.
realizes that or Maeve is helping Lily in some type of way because they think Mab has gone
Yes.
insane. And so, like, no one's talking about the fact that they're helping each other. It's all very political. Um, and so Harry's just like, Lily, I can't believe you used
Yeah,
me.
he's a little betrayed at this point where he's like, "What, Lily? I thought I could trust you.
Lily. Oh, and
I can't
also,
trust anyone."
I'm so sorry. I forgot about this because it doesn't matter. Harry starts bringing up that stupid sword that he's been holding for the prior night. Who he's like,
Hmm.
I've been holding it for a long time, and it said it would tell me who was meant to have it, but no one's been telling me, so I
Well,
will keep it.
have we gotten there yet to this sword? Because I think
He
he
mentions
talks
it when
about it
he's at his
more.
apartment. Like he
Yeah,
mentions it when he's
because
at the apartment because Charity's there, and he's like, and I
well, and
thought
he
for a
mentions
second,
it
like,
more later on too, because he's like, "I've
yes.
just been like keeping it in like a popcorn tin," and I'm like, "You, you are ridiculous."
Yeah. And so, yeah, that happened as well. This is where we learned that like Murph might be in the doghouse for running away from an active investigation.
Hmm.
um, and so they're kind of like recombobulating. Murph is going to leave the little squad for a while, and Harry takes Charity and Molly back to Father Forthill, and Harry has a
And Michael is
conversation.
still not there. Like,
Michael is so off the page, he's like practically screaming. So Harry has a conversation with Molly where he's like, Molly, you messed with magic, and now
he's
you
like, "Where
might
have you
have
been
to
learning about
die.
magic?" And she's like, "Barnes and Noble." And he's like, "Big mistake. Big
He-
mistake. Because now you have to be executed for forcing people to fear drugs."
Butcher can't have the access to Chucky, but he can get an access to Barnes and Noble.
Here's
Um,
the thing. Jim Butcher has been promoting indie bookstores for a long time, and this is how he does it. He really drives home how bad it is to read books from Barnes and Noble.
honestly, because of the time this book came out, the second she said Barnes and Noble, I was like pushed back into that space of like the strongest smelling Starbucks permeating that green carpet. Like I was brought back to like, ooh, that's a hard way to learn the occult. And Harry was like, you go to like an occult store, and she's like, no, that would have been sacrilegious. Like that's pretty much her reason. Like
She's just sitting at Barnes and Noble with her coffee and reading about this.
with her giant frappuccino with the giant whipped cream and chocolate dollop on top, just
Amazing.
reading about how she put up a veil, and that's really good because she put up. Harry is like, "What's the first thing you did with your magic?" And he talks about his first thing.
Hmm. And
Um,
she's like, "Well, the first thing I did was enslave people to my will and made them fear drugs."
well, no, she put up a veil to hide from her mom the fact that she forgot to change. That was, in fact, the first thing she did.
Well,
Then
then
she
she
moved to
did that. The
mindful,
second thing.
and you find out that like her boyfriend definitely cheated on her with her friend, and that's how they got
He's
pregnant
the
because of
father of
drugs.
Rosie's child.
Because
And
of
she was like
drugs.
super angry.
And so she ended up like affecting his psyche more than others. And she has a moment where she's like, I was just trying to get them off drugs. And Harry's like, and you were taking away their free will? Like, even
Yes.
your God thinks it's important for people to have that, Molly. And he tells her that like the White Council will likely want to murder her and he's going to
Hmm.
try to help her as much as he can, but he can't make any promises. And she's like, but you're amazing and I'm in love with you. And he's like, well, you got to decide what type of person you're going to be. Are you going to be a warlock or are you going to be a stupid little kid?
And he's like, let's do a soul gaze to find out.
And he does the soul gaze with her, and she's like, I'm overtaken with the magnificence that is Harry Dresden. And Harry is like, wow, she has a lot of options available to
Some
her.
of them are really dark,
Some of
and
them are
she
really
needs a
dark,
guide.
some of
Who
them
would
are
be better?
amazing, and she's very strong. And I, every time, I know this is, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but every time he does a soul gaze, I'm like, well, you lost your one opportunity to ever see a soul gaze again with this person. You'll never know which path she takes because this was your one try.
Here's the thing, though. He knows what path she's taking because he's going to lay it out for her. Because, as I put in my notes, she needs a guide, and who would be better than Harry
Then
Dresden?
a man who will look at her naked instead of saying, "Hey, don't drop that robe. Nothing's gonna happen."
Gosh.
I'll get there. But anyway, Harry's like, "I think you'll make the right choice, Molly. You got a bright future ahead of you." And Molly's like, "Okay, I will go to my death." So they tell Charity, and
And
Charity is like,
he's like, get out of that dog pile of kids. Come over here, and because they're all just sleeping there together.
"Yeah."
He's like,
And
Molly might be executed. You need to know about it.
Charity is like, this is why I freaking hate the White Council. And Harry's like, you shouldn't say that, Charity. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I'm one of the wardens now for realsies.
And so then
Uh,
Father Forthill and Molly both are like, let's talk about the Bible so we can convince you, Charity. And I'm like, what is happening?
well, and
Oh.
Charity is just like, screw you, Harry Dresden, because he's giving the opportunity for her oldest daughter to be beheaded. And
Hmm.
Father Fortill's like, now Charity, he's a good guy. No, she gets to be a little ridiculous about the
Yeah.
impending doom that is her daughter. But everyone convinces her that nothing is more hysterical than a mother. So Molly is going to go to her death, and they
Yes.
both say goodbye to one another. And it's very sad. And Harry
And
also
Harry
talks to,
calls a council meeting at sundown.
he calls council meeting and he goes there to speak on her behalf. He tries to get like Warden Ramirez on his side. He calls him for security because he thinks he'll
Well,
be,
and then
someone
like
who's pretty
the
good.
Merlin is basically the only one that can vote, and then they're like, and Morgan will do the executing. And I'm like, of course Morgan does. Like,
Well, because
why
okay,
wouldn't he?
so again, the Red Court vampires were all fighting the White
Hmm.
Council like tooth and nail. And so everyone else was like over on the West Coast because it had to be far enough away that they
Hmm.
couldn't get there right away. And so Harry comes in and like none of the other people on the council are there. So in the event that none of them are there, I guess the Merlin just takes up all their votes like a little gremlin
Yeah, I
and
don't
he gets to
understand
vote
that.
for them.
The other thing
Because
I didn't
democracy.
understand was he says like, "Oh, Morgan would be the one to execute Molly," and then he's like, "You know what? I really respect Morgan. I really respect him, and I'll still fight him to the death or pants him on live TV, but I respect that man." And I'm like,
I
"What
respect
on earth?"
I respect the man who I've talked about as a beleaguered cop who will do things in the name of good that are in and of themselves corrupt because he's not mentally fully there. But I
I
respect him.
don't know how he got there to that level of respect, is what I can't figure out.
I don't know. So anyway, Harry makes a case. Well, before he starts the council with the Merlin, where he's like, "Ooh, I have an uphill battle. This is not going to be good." The guardian walks in. Is that his name? Um,
Well, they
the
have the
gatekeeper. The gatekeeper
Oh
comes
yeah, the
in, and
gatekeeper is
so,
there, and there's also the summer lady and summer night there too.
oh
And
yes,
so
Harry
he's like,
does have them
we
there.
can't use Latin because they can't understand it. It's not because I'm not proficient in it, it's because of them.
Well, because Harry says that like I think it's Morgan who's like, you have to do the proceedings in Latin. That's the way it's done.
Hmm.
And Harry is like, he knows I'll sound stupid. He knows I won't be as eloquent and I'll look bad in front of all of these people, even though I only have to convince one person.
Which
So
is this
he's like,
another call to like the conservative Catholic Church versus modern Catholic Church?
I guess.
Latin mass must be
Uh,
said.
Um, and so Harry's like, I can't do that because you would pass judgment on the summer lady and the summer night. And so they're like, okay, fine, we can do it in English, I guess.
Hmm.
And so Harry talks about like all the wonderful things that Molly has done and the fact that she is guilty of mind control. She's come to them with the
Yes.
understanding that like she wants to do good and she doesn't want to be a warlock and she does want to change and Harry wants to help
Hmm.
her change. And Harry also points out the fact that like the Society of the White Council is failing young magicians,
He's like, we're getting rid of too
wizards.
many of our kind that we are in a lot of battles. We need all the talent we can get.
Well, and he also points out that like because they are so spread thin, they're in effect not finding these wizards before they do bad.
Yeah.
And people who are ignorant and trying to teach themselves are going to fall into these pitfalls. So they need to help bring these people back to the light,
Hmm.
or else they will lose everyone. So it's kind of pointing out that, like,
Yeah.
societally, they are
I mean,
not
it's
set up well.
good at
Um,
pointing out the failings on their part.
yes. And also during this, the Summer Queen or the Summer Lady honors Morgan and honors Dresden to show that he is special too because
Yeah.
he helped save everyone, and without him, the White Council would have never survived.
Well,
Which
they're
is
like,
true.
because at first she like mentions like what Morgan did, and she's like, here's a special coin. And then she's like, but Dresden did far more.
And
He's
Harry's like, I
forever
didn't
a
know
friend.
what you were doing. And she's like, be, and Fix is like, be cool, man, be cool. Um, and so Harry like has this huge this huge speech and it's
Hmm.
working. And Harry realizes that in doing this and pulling all these punches of like, or like punching through all of these societal failures, he's making the Merlin look bad.
Yeah, the
And
Merlin's like pissed.
yes, and the Merlin doesn't like that, like he's showing that like they did fail all these wizards. So he's like,
Hmm.
Harry, I agree with you. But also as a warden of this region, I can't allow you to take on a ward because it would spread you too thin, as you pointed out. So she will die. And it's like, excuse you? And so Harry has a panicking moment. He doesn't know what to do. But then he's like, ooh, the gatekeeper hasn't
He's
voted.
like, the
Does the
gatekeeper hasn't voted. Let's
does
get
the
him too.
gatekeeper get to split any of the votes that the Merlin has? No, but the Merlin is like, well, it doesn't matter. And Harry's like, well, it's procedure and you love procedure, so let me do this. And then the gatekeeper is like, I'm picking up what you're laying down. And he's like, what do I pick? What do I
He's like,
pick?
I need more time to decide before I condemn a soul to death.
And so he waits 5 minutes and then the gatekeeper's like, I'm over this, and just like breaks the circle that kept everyone out, apparently. And
Yeah.
immediately Ebenezer McCoy
Hmm.
runs through
And
with
so is like Lucio and a bunch of children.
Martha
And
Liberty, the
yes.
black woman named Liberty,
And then
and
Joe is back
Joe,
too. We're
who
not
we
going to say his full name,
refuse. No, we don't. No, I'm not saying any of his names. His name is Joe.
just Joe.
Um, it's just Joe. You can accept that.
Hmm.
And so they all come in, and Michael is also there because apparently
He's a
God
hero.
sent Michael to help the White Council. That's where he was this entire book. He was off page, helping against the Red Court vampires in
I
a
just don't
way
believe it.
to ingratiate. It's really weird logic because you're thinking that God sent him to the White Court to help to White Council to help ingratiate himself with the White Council so that they later wouldn't murder his daughter.
But he
God,
was gone so much, he could have helped prevent a lot of this from the get-go.
yeah, and everyone is very
Uh,
impressed that Michael has Amarachius. And so everyone answers a bunch of questions for Molly. She's saved.
She's a new
And
apprentice.
hallelujah. Harry's like, I've become a politician. And then Michael is like, oh, well, like, thank you for watching over my family. I think God sent you. And Harry's like, no. And he's like, I think you took a leap of faith. And Harry's like, I
Well,
believe
and then
in
he's like,
your
I don't think
faith.
that you were saving Molly. I think Molly and my family were saving you.
He also points out that Amarachius is actually the sword in the stone with the original Merlin who kept over an eye over
Yeah,
it because we needed that background. And Harry is now
just to be more confusing.
the second warden to ever take hold of one of these
Hmm.
swords that Harry brought up a lot in this book, but we forgot about before this. Um, and that like Shiro will send Harry the right person for the sword.
Yes.
Maybe Kieran Murphy. We don't know.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense. Or
And so
himself. Like, if
yeah,
there's anyone good to do it,
is there anyone good enough to do the job? It's Harry Dresden.
it's likely Harry. Is he stretched too
Um,
thin? Never.
Never. He can take it all with Lachille, which speaking of, Harry and Michael are
Yeah, he's
talking,
like,
and
I'm
Michael's like,
sorry, I kept a lot of secrets from you. And
Michael's like,
Michael's
you
like,
haven't been
Avi.
around for a while. And he's like, I killed two people last year. And Michael's like, would you do it again? And Harry goes, yes. And he goes, then you had no other choice. And I was like, I guess. Then Harry's like, also, I touched the Lachille coin. And Michael's like, I knew. I saw it all along back then. And I was like, so you could have, in fact, helped him, but you just kept it a secret for years and let your friend alienate himself to let
Well,
him
and then
come to
he's like,
you?
you need to forsake the coin and all of the magic with it.
You need to just walk away from all your magic. That's what you need to do. And
And
Harry's
Harry's
like,
like, never.
no. And he's like, well, then you're going to have to deal with this for the rest of your life.
And
But
he's
I
like, well, I
will
guess I already knew that.
but I will try to help you. But also, if I can't help you, I will kill you. And that is the entire conversation.
Yeah.
And then Harry's like, hey, I know I just dropped you off at your house and I have your 17-year-old daughter, but actually she has to come back to my apartment with me for reasons.
Which
They
did not make sense because she goes back there and showers and it's a creepy moment.
okay, so this whole section could have just taken place at the Carpenter house without the creepy part.
Without the
But for
creep.
some reason, Harry has to take her back to his house and be like, look, I'm going to train you and we're
And
going
it's
to
over
do
with
this.
Nelson.
And it's over with Nelson because you don't care about him. I could tell from the first moment I saw you two together, and I was like, I don't think you could have. I think that that's a
Mm-mm.
lie. Um, so we do find out mystery solved from 2 episodes ago. The fairies do continue to clean, but you
Yes.
can't talk about them. So
Otherwise, they
that's the
stop
answer for
cleaning this
that.
place.
But also, they give Harry lots of Fruity Loops, and they
Hmm.
also give him frozen pizza that he leaves one out for the fairy cleaner so that they keep giving him pizza, which I
Yeah.
thought was cute.
Nice add-in.
Um, but then he's getting ready to make some food, and Molly comes out in a towel, and
Well,
or a
doesn't she
robe.
have on the apprentice robe, right?
Yes, she's wearing like the brown robe, and
And
she
she's like,
walks up to Harry.
no one's touched you in a long time.
I did the soul gaze with you, and the soul gaze also told me you're horny with blue balls.
And he's like, it's never gonna happen, Molly.
Well, but first he lets her get fully naked,
Yes.
and then he is looking up and down her body. It's described in great detail, which again,
Yes.
if you're an adult man and a woman just got naked in front of you, you don't have to look. The amount of times I don't look at naked women in a dressing room or in a
Hmm. A
a
locker room or
gym
something.
or is a lot. Like you don't have to look. But here he's
Right.
like, well, she has nipple piercings and she has a
A
tattoo
tattoo that runs
and
from her neck down to her navel.
she's underage.
And
But
as I
I'm a
put in my notes, how creepy. OMG. Ugh.
And then he says, get on your knees, which is also disgusting to do. And so she gets on her
There's
knees.
bad implications
The
surrounding that.
implication being she's going to suck him off. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, would make this episode explicit, but like, like, so that's gonna happen. And then he just dumps cold water on her, which at that point I did have the thought, she's also a wizard. Does she have to take cold showers?
Can you imagine their household? They're like, why in the world is none of our stuff working?
And also, like, why wasn't all their stuff on the fritz for a long time?
Yeah,
Charity is
charity.
technically a
Hmm.
wizard, so it's like the more you use your power, the
How's she able to
more
keep up
the
with her
rule.
housewife duties?
Right. So I do think the implication is you have to keep using your magic and then it starts fritzing. So it's like the
Right.
connection. That's, I mean, I'm guessing Butcher's going to retroactively put that in place
Yeah,
because it's like a
probably.
fun little thing for Harry, but it's a plot hole for Charity. So,
Yeah.
anyway, he dumps water on her and he's like, it's never going to happen. Put your clothes on.
Hmm.
And I was like, you could have done this with her clothes on. You,
Well, and then he plays like hardball, quote unquote, and he's like, you're going back to your mom and dad's and you're finishing high school and you're gonna be respectful
and
and
she's like,
no more
Harry,
sex or soul
this is
gazing.
no more sex or masturbating, which is also heavily Catholic. I am so sorry.
So much of
Like,
this section, like I'm like, even like the little nods to Latin, I'm like, did was there some sort of Catholic
I don't know because he's just like,
deep
you
dive
can't.
that happened here?
And she asks, like, are you serious about the masturbation? And he's not clear. And I was like, well, that's also weird. Like, it's just
Hmm.
weird. I don't like this. And so he drops her off, says she's going home, and she'll be at his house on Fridays and Saturdays, so she'll have no social life because 17-year-olds should be attracted to 35-year-old men or nothing. Um,
You like your teacher or you like no one?
so anyway, then Harry goes home, and who shows up but old Ebenezer McCoy?
Well, I mean, he's working in the lab with Bob, and then Murphy shows up first
Oh
and
yeah, and she
reveals that
says
she's being demoted.
she's being demoted and she's gonna have to work under
Rollins.
Rollins, and he's like, "Well, worse things have happened. I like Rollins."
And then
She's like,
Thomas is like, "What's going on with Murphy?" And he's like, "Nothing." And he's like, "You're so annoying."
"Yeah, you two are both idiots."
And then Ebenezer
And then
shows up.
Ebenezer shows up, and Ebenezer's like, "How you doing, kid?" And Harry's like, "You know, Ebenezer, I've been thinking about it, and I know you said you weren't there the day they condemned me to death, but then assigned me to you, but I think you were, and I think you spoke on my behalf." And Ebenezer's like, "No, I didn't." Shrug, little wink, wink. And Harry's like, "Well, you may have a license to kill, but you're a good son of a bitch. So let's go get breakfast." And
Well,
Ebenezer's like,
they
"Yeah."
mentioned too that there's like this new kind of power
Oh, you're
that
right.
they
I'm so
have to think
sorry.
about too, and
So
they're
Harry says, "I think the past 7 books have all been connected. From the loop gurus to the random magical powers to the Fae. It's all connected, and they're all coming after the White Council." And Ebenezer's like, "I think you're onto something." He's like,
Mhm.
"I think they're the Black Council." And Ebenezer's like, "Do you think of that name yourself?" And Harry's like, "Yes, I did. We need to give them a name." And it's one of those where I'm like, is that why we had the eBay offshoot conversation? So that we knew that there was a Black Council
Yes.
involved where everyone's just behind the surface. And literally in my notes, I forgot to talk about it, but in my notes I said, "Wow, we just found out that there's a Moriarty here." Because that's what this is. It's
Hmm.
just
Yep.
it's just Moriarty who's
Yep.
having like a little puppet string conversation. Um, so yeah, we find out that there is a Black Council, and then they go get breakfast. So
But
7 books in,
Ebenezer also says he's so proud of Harry.
and it's all connected, Laura. Every
Of course it
little
is.
piece of it. Except it's not, because I don't think Bitcher knew that going into
I
this
think it's
book.
definitely connected because readers have to read all of the books.
Oh, well, that's really rude to do.
There's no skipping and jumping in at book 7 because it's all connected, people.
Oh gosh. So yeah, so that's the name of the book. Yeah, I don't know. What'd you think? I mean, we're gonna talk about themes and people, but what'd you think, Laura?
I
Another
had
5 star?
so many notes of what is happening.
Again, there were so many times in this book where like we got to the end and I was like, was the horror novel stuff tied up? And I don't think it technically was. Like, I don't think so.
No.
I think it just was like, oh, these are monsters and now they're gone.
Well, and it's kind of weird because it's like there was so much emphasis on the front third about like the photo or like what were they called? Like photophages or something like that. I can't even remember. Where they're like
Yeah,
these fear loving
these
things that
fear-based
are like
things.
yeah, they were like killing all these people and everything and there was like so much emphasis on that in the front half and then like suddenly it was just like actually it's just the fairies sending stuff over so like don't worry about them, like just forget about it. It's all connected to this war. And
Yes.
so I was like okay, but is this happening in other places in Chicago that they're also doing this? Like, okay,
Right.
confusing. So it's weird how like certain things are like set up and then just dropped.
Right. No, I agree. I just think like there's so much here that's just not finished or not
Hmm.
complete. And like even in this areas, like I think they used Molly, this black court. And it's like, okay, so you have this overarching theme, but like you just tossed it in with a bunch of other
Yes.
gobbledygook, and it just does not make sense. So we'll have an interesting time talking next week.
It's
I
just a
mean,
lot going on.
we'll have a lot to say about Charity because that's how this episode started, and I'm sure that's how it will finish. So
Charity and
yeah,
Michael are just dark spots in this book.
you just gotta have a little faith, Laura. A little faith
Mhm.
in them. But bum. So,
Yeah.
everyone, join us next week as we close out our conversation on Proving Guilty with the
Yes.
characters and themes of this very weird novel. Someone on TikTok was like, "This is my favorite book," and I'm
Really?
interested. I wonder if it's because it's the beginning of the Black Council, but it's like, well, then we have to appreciate everything that comes after it before we could ever
Hmm.
appreciate this novel. So I don't know why we're here.
Okay.
But with that said, please follow us on all of the social media platforms in which we exist, mostly Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok, as stated. We're going through the backlog of our what era over there right now.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
But we'll move through some of the other ones and we always post when there's a new episode. So check us out over on Tickety Talk. And for some of our cool new graphics over on the other social media platforms. If you also would be willing, please rate, review, and subscribe to this episode. It
Yeah.
helps get people to us. We really appreciate it. You can also
Sharing with a
text
friend
us.
really helps too.
You can text us from some of these places. So if you ever want to text us, just do it there. So we appreciate all of that. Tell a friend, and we will see you next week
Thanks for
as we
listening.
continue with the Year of the Dresden. Bye.
Bye.